Trying to find the right study tactics for ADHD can seem like it's impossible to find. And I know from personal experience, I have read all the books and material that is out there when it comes to knowing about different study tactics. Going through college and medical school myself and having ADHD and dyslexia was challenging. So I want to share with you the 5 secrets when it comes to studying with ADHD. One of the biggest challenges I had in school is dealing with the amount and overload of all the different homework and studying material that we had to study for different exams. And I'd get to a point where I'd become very demotivated to do any of it and wouldn't even get started. And I'd go wander off, hoping that it would eventually get done, but lo and behold, it just wouldn't. And then I'd put it off and hurry up and try to get it all done, and my grades would suffer. So the very first secret that I found that I think you should definitely apply to this is to do an easy task first. So when you have all this homework to do and all this studying material, is pick the one that is the easiest to do. When you start doing that is you trick the brain saying, okay, all I'm gonna do is 5 minutes, 10 minutes of this easy thing that I could study. And when you do that, it tricks the brain to pretty much think, okay, that's all I gotta do, great. And then while you're doing it, what I noticed is it actually has me finish doing the rest of it. So if I was doing a paper and I'm like, okay, all I gotta do is come up with the title, and maybe just the first paragraph. And then I get into it, I'm like, might as well just finish the rest of the paper. And that's what I would find happen more often than not. But on top of that, in order for that to really happen, is you gotta get in the mindset to be able to even start doing homework. And one of the biggest things that I need to tell you to do is get rid of this. Honestly, the phone is a huge distraction. Put it in a different room, lock it in a lockbox, get rid of that, because the distractions is going to prevent you from actually even doing anything. It's going to demotivate you because every time you have distraction, guess what? You're going to be less and less motivated. You're not going to have the willpower every time you have a distraction because it's going to take you 20 minutes to get back into the mindset of doing your homework or studying for your exam. The other biggest problem that I had is, I mentioned it before, is procrastination. I would put off things till the last minute and decide, okay, I'll get to it. And then all of a sudden exam day would come and I'd hurry up and study, or I had to write that paper and I'd do it last minute. And then I'd be like, well, I've been trying to think about doing this and the ideas didn't come until the very last minute. So that's why I procrastinate. Why does that happen? Well, let me tell you, it has to do with Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law has to do with anytime you give yourself an amount of time of, like, let's say you're telling okay, it's taking me a month to do this. You're going to take that entire time. When maybe, honestly, it probably only takes you about 2 days to actually do a project. So what I suggest here is take advantage of our procrastination that we do with ADHD. And this is how we do this. By applying Parkinson's law, we give ourselves our own deadline. So instead of the teacher saying, oh, it's due in a month, you're gonna be like, no, it's not, it's due in a week. This is the date it's due. I'm gonna do it in 1 day. And guess what? Your brain will find a way and have those ideas if you set your own deadlines. When I did this, it made all the difference. I felt more confident going into an exam or writing a paper when I would set my own deadlines. Now, there's a lot of information that is always bombarded by us of all these different topics that we're studying for, and it sometimes doesn't make any sense because, let's be honest, most textbooks, most lectures, it's all this logical, systematic way of teaching. And us people with ADHD, well, we like to think outside the box. Sometimes we can't really understand those concepts. And what I suggest here that you need to do is to connect it all together and it be your own creative way of thinking and bringing everything together. What do I mean by this? Well, the first step is you can do something like mind mapping. Something that saved my butt when it came through going to college and medical school is using mind maps. How this works is I would take all the lecture notes and I would lay it all on the floor so I could see if there was any comparisons, any connections, and then I would make a master mind map where I write another note where I saw all these connections. By doing that, it all brought it together where I saw a world perspective of it versus just step by step by step by step, because I don't think that way. Now, when I was going through college and medical school, I needed a lot of help because it was a challenge going through and failing multiple times. I had to retake classes. I had to seek out a lot of help, and I would seek out a lot of help from teachers. And something that I would highly encourage you to do is connect with your teachers very beginning of the semester, so that way they know your challenges. Because if you let them know your challenges, guess what? They're going to give you some ideas, some creative ideas of knowing how to study, and also how they're going to test you, especially looking and knowing how the exams are going to be prepped, because then they understand that you're putting in the effort. you make that relationship with them, and which leads into my next fifth secret is by creating practice tests. Now this, I wish I would have known early on. I didn't really start doing this until I was in medical school. This helps you put you in the mindset of the teacher, especially if you build that relationship with that teacher. Of the fourth secret, you could ask them, hey, do you have any old exams that I can look over and practice on? So then you can see their style of how they ask questions. And then maybe they can help you create questions, especially if you're visiting them a lot. Maybe they might like, ooh, I like that question, and they might actually use it. And it actually will help you know how to study when you start making practice tests. Now, going back to the mind maps, I think it's really important that you should learn the ins and outs of how to do mind mapping. So you should watch this video right here that I created for people with ADHD of how to implement mind maps, and watch this video right now.